anyways, we're gonna get going here. I'm gonna do a quick debrief, taking us back to Montreal on this scanning, and then we're gonna have. I'm sure we're gonna have some lively discussion up here with the panelists. We're gonna play a video first.
Thank you, Eric.
I'm going to go along the same lines. We can guarantee what our scan tool will do, and I can tell you that I know the people that build the software and put that thing together. The second that car comes off the line, there's information in the scan tool to support it already. So it is absolutely the best piece of equipment that you can use to scan our cars. And I'd like to take that and roll it into the information system too. Our technical information system, updates happen to these things, to the text streams, to the information system. Updates happen all of the time. When those updates happen, the day that the update changes, it's in TIS.
Yeah.
And we've had several of the IRFs come back to us and who have tested an OE versus a non-OE scan tool, and they've missed some codes. So, from that case, if you're doing that, and I said this to you before, I mean, we hope you get it right, and hope is not a strategy. So we've got to recommend ours or something like Aztec's.
Thank you.
For General Motors, we support the GDS, which is the Global Diagnostic Tool. We have not tested or validated any of the aftermarket tools. We also we had the Tech 2, which was up until about 2010 when we moved to a Class A architecture, global architecture. The first vehicle there was a 2010 Camaro on that system. And so we do have a modular unit that will connect with the Tech 2 to help read it if you're using the Global Diagnostic Tool, the GDS unit from General Motors for the newer vehicles. But aftermarket ones, we haven't tested or validated those to know where they stand. Have they coded in all of our calibration coding and things like that? We just don't have that to be able to validate that.
Thank you, John. Justin?
I posed the same question to our engineers and got the same answer as these fellas. We just don't test the aftermarket scan tools. The only one we're comfortable with is ours, which is the consult tool. So that's where we stand as well.
All right, thank you. So now I'm going to go to Doug Kelly. Doug Kelly is the CEO of Collision Diagnostic Systems, which is also the founding company of the Aztec. So, Doug, obviously when your company started out, you were utilizing some aftermarket scan tools, but you transitioned over to all OEM scan tools now. So what has been your experience between aftermarket and OEM scan tools?
Well, let me first say that we do test aftermarket tools in our Plano headquarters back in Texas. There are some really good aftermarket tools, so I want to make sure we don't broad brush it and suggest that the aftermarket tools don't work. But what I can tell you is there's some really good points that have been made up here, which is that newer cars, the updates, the changes that are going on, the aftermarkets have to play catch up. And the challenge in collision repair is, unlike independent mechanical garages that get cars 4 and 5 years later in their life after warranty, collision shops are getting cars right off the assembly line. So the probability of being able to actually perform work on those cars with an aftermarket scan tool is at risk. I'll just put that out there. The other thing is the aftermarket tools don't get the build data. So one of the advantages that the car companies have, obviously...
So can you explain to the audience what build data is? Because it's really important.
Well, I mean, it's what came on the car to begin with. Now, obviously, there can be changes to that with aftermarket modifications, but assuming that car is in its original state, you're going to get to know what features and functions are on that vehicle. A lot of those items that we are accustomed to, which are on the window sticker, don't show up on a dashboard anymore. A heated steering wheel, air-conditioned seats, adaptive cruise control, rain sensing windshield wipers. I mean, all these things are on that car, but you have no idea if you don't have the build data. So, you asked before about, can you tell if this is working or not working? Even with a scan tool, let's be honest, it's a collision repair. Parts are missing, modules may be left at the side of the highway. There's still visual inspection that's needed. So, a scan tool is good, and it's a good start. But, we're in the business of recreating or rebuilding a vehicle after an accident, and it's unlike a service bay at a mechanical garage. We hire a lot of automotive technicians out of dealerships. Sorry about that. But, in the course of doing that, we have to go through an education process with these guys because they're used to looking at whole cars. And we have to remind them, Copart's been a great partner. We'll bring in wrecked cars in the back. We'll show them, this is what you're looking at. You know, you're not looking at a car that's intact. You got cut wiring harnesses, blown fuses. There's systems that shut down when there's not enough power given to the car. So we have to make sure there's power to that vehicle, that that vehicle can communicate. So there's a lot to this. It's not just about scan tools. And the other point I wanted to mention earlier is there's been a lot of discussion about repair methods and repair procedures. Before you do anything, you have to know what car you're working on. And doing that research up front is a first step before you even diagnose it.
Yep, great, Doug. Thank you. Okay, so let's go to our next question. Mark Allen from Audi, you guys are one of the best OEM manufacturers to provide what's called freeze frame data. Could you share with everybody what freeze frame data is? It's like the date, time, mileage, stamp, etc.
Yeah, so basically when the codes occur, it gives you the date, time, and as Mike said, when it happens. Then you can go into the diagnostic and figure out, all right, what is that problem? But it does go back in time, and it also clears over time. So if it's a minor code that doesn't mean anything, eventually the system looks at it and goes, all right, it's cleared up, and we don't have to deal with this. I also have to suggest there's a lot of good stuff on what comes out of OBD2. The chairman of the SAE board happens to be a Volkswagen Group of America employee. Great guy to talk to, super knowledgeable. But they have some white papers out there if you have interest in what really comes out of OBD2 and what you need to know, look it up on SAE.
Okay, thank you. So for the other, Doug, can you tell us what OEM manufacturers you're familiar with that provide freeze frame data? So freeze frame data, again, tells you the date, time, and mileage that a fault code occurred, which could help an insurer to determine whether something's from an accident or not. Can you tell us what OEMs you're familiar with that provide that?
Well, I can tell you that the European manufacturers provide the most amount of data in any respect. So when it comes to trouble codes, they have by far the most amount of information on board. They also provide the greatest level of detail on that freeze frame data. So when you get into the BMWs, the Audis, and so on, you're going to find date and time information. The Japanese manufacturers will typically give you number of key cycles, for instance, from when a system may have gone offline. But I do have to caution that a lot of that information is very detailed in nature and oftentimes not very intuitive. So part of our challenge as collision repairers is not only getting access to that data, but trying to decipher what it means.
Okay, thank you. So going down the line with each OEM, can you tell us, do you foresee that your OEM manufacturer will come out with freeze frame data in the near future, starting with Chris from Honda?
Actually, a lot of our codes, many of them do have data, mileage since first fail, mileage since last fail, and that actually is part of emission-related codes for OBD2. It's part of the requirement.
So if you weren't confused before, I'm sure we're really confused now. So you see the bantering back and forth between the OE's statement positions and the aftermarket guys. And what we have to try to figure out as a group is what is reasonable, what is sensible, what's going to reduce cost, what's going to reduce total losses, what's going to increase sustainability in the shops. Somewhere between, I think, what the OEs want and what the industry needs, maybe we have to meet in the middle somewhere and figure that out. Obviously now the statement positions are such that they would only trust their own tools to do the diagnostics. So we talked about, so there's advanced technology in vehicles, and there's countless, of course, modules. There's the need to restore the vehicles to OEM specifications, ensuring safe operation of all vehicle systems. And that could include the simplest thing like rain sensors or daytime running lights, very simple things that we take for granted but are safety items that need to be operating as they did prior to the loss. Diagnostic scanning is being widely debated by industry stakeholders, and this is why we're here today. So between the insurers, the repairers, and the OEs, we're debating this, trying to figure out, we're trying to come up with basically a consensus that works for all of us. And then the OEM position statements over the past few months. So I'm sure you've all seen over the past few months the OEs sending out their position statements. From an insurer's point of view for a second here, we look at those OE statements and we follow them. They're the manufacturers of the cars. That's all we have to hang our hat on today. So we had a bit of a debate in Montreal, and we decided that we would, between the Montreal meeting and this meeting, we would get together with some OEs and a couple of aftermarket folks and do some live demonstrations. So we were able to do that in the summer. There we had a bunch of cars out at Per Kilo Brothers, and we had Toyota come in and 2 aftermarket folks come in, and we did some head-to-head testing. It was basically, here's the purpose of the format, was to gather information and create dialogue on the issue of scanning. We had over 50 people attend. We had some insurers, and obviously repairers. And then we did a comparison, and I'll just give you guys a quick glance at that. So you can see the OE tool there, then you can see the other 2 aftermarket tools. The yellow means that they've missed something. What that is, we don't know right now, but if we are going to focus on the customer today and want to be 100% sure that that vehicle is leaving the same way it left the dealership slot when it was purchased, we can only look at that OE column, because none of us can afford, the insurers and the repairers can't afford to leave 2 missed items on anything, because that, like once I said, that could be your ABS braking, that could be your adaptive cruise control. So this is what we got from that testing. Now, we didn't need, just to be fair to everybody, we need to do a lot more work. This was a test done in a short period. We didn't have a lot of, let's just say, process around it. We just had a bunch of people show up. They ran their tool. The OEs ran their tools. We had 4 scrutineers, though, from the industry, because we all wanted to stay at an arm's length of the results. So we had 4 scrutineers, one for me, pretty well each of the banners, to the technical folks to work on collecting this data. So observations, ease of use, OE. It says some OE training required in order to operate and interpret the data. We heard about that today just in that quick video. No internet connection required. Complete report returned within 5 to 7 minutes. OE assisted tools. Minimal training required to operate tool. OE technician completes all work and contacts to and reviews the report. Active internet connection required for the duration of the scanning procedure. Complete report returned within 30 to 45 minutes. Easy to print and share reports. In the aftermarket, minimal training required to operate, internet connection required for updates and aftermarket databases, Bluetooth connectivity with the vehicle, complete report returned within 10 to 15 minutes, easy to print and share reports. And why all this stuff is going to become important is there's going to be questions on who's responsible, who's going to pay, when the codes were fired off, why the codes were fired off. So here's the criterion. So report clarity and completeness, the OE, freeze frame, date, timestamps available, but we did hear it's very hard because you have to do a deep dive in there to dig either key cycles, mileage, or date. Most complete data results including calibration procedure and reference. So the OE tool clearly stands out. The OE assisted tool also has the freeze frame data and timestamps. Provided easiest interpretation of data, including recommendations and administrative data. And then the aftermarket, freeze frame data, the same thing. Generated separate report for DTC while still providing easy interpretation of the data. So the observations are here. It is what is the cost of scanning? So the purpose of the purchase of the equipment, purchase of computer hardware, and annual software is on the OE side. OE assisted is the purchase of the equipment, fee per scan, pre and post for some tools, and no annual software subscription. And the aftermarket is purchase of equipment and an annual software fee. Things to consider, and I'm going to make this point more than once. So providing repairs that meet OE specs, that requires a technician, somebody that can actually digest this data and tell you what it is. Just guessing, you're looking at a bunch of numbers and saying it's some sensor and you don't know what it is not going to cut it. Enhanced client satisfaction. So clearly, when one of our customers leaves and the car was done right the first time, we have that enhanced customer satisfaction time. Impact on cycle time. Now, this could be looked at 2 ways. If you get it right the first time and you do the pre-scan, you're going to get everything you need up front. And whether it be some sort of sensor, whether you do with the airbags, you're going to get this up front. If you do it in the back, and you're going to delay it. But at the same token, if you have to take the vehicle out of the shop and wait 4 or 5 days at a dealer to get it done, you're going to increase your cycle time. You will reduce the supplement frequency because we saw them do a scan there and they picked up stuff that we had missed on our appraisal just doing that pre-scan. Cost control, varying cost and price structures. This is, the end users are going to have to decide on what best fits or suits their organization. More things to consider: the training, the ability to clear the codes, Reliability of the data. We saw there was we were off in a few spots. And this very last point that talks to liability, if we take time to read the disclaimers on these tools, and if somebody's going to be there to support you, should something go wrong, you're going to want to read the liability on each one of these. Basically, is somebody going to be there to back you up after the data is generated? I've seen some of the reports, and it's actually scary. Like, they're really not responding to anything, or don't want to be accountable for the data. I'm going to say that the OEs have that down pat. The other two providers, whether it's OE assisted or the aftermarket guys, are going to have to work on backing up all of us as far as warranting and assuring that the data that's coming back in is correct. So we're going to play some music, and we're going to say, does your facility currently perform pre-post scans? Yes or no? 62%. So 60 cars out of 100 leave today, not done. Unless it's your mother-in-law, that's not a good thing. You want to make sure that, well, my mother-in-law then. Yeah, so that's 60% of the cars, and that's scary when we think of how long, like I'm looking at Scott, that's honestly, even from an insurer's point, that is scary. Okay, what's the next one here, Mikey? Yes, Ken. That's a good point. We'll have to save that for the next one. Yeah, but at least we know that. Did anybody interpret that it would be on just some cars, or is this, you're looking at your entire book? Dave? Some. Yeah, so you're just doing them randomly. So that could even be less then. Okay, that's a good point. Let's go to this one. Is your facility certified by one or more OE manufacturers to repair their vehicles? Yes or no? And of course, only the repairers are answering this. So 54% of everybody in here, the repairs are certified by one of the OEs. So that means that the scanning is a must with the OEs, pre and post. So we should at least be at half, right? That's what that would say to me. So if you're on one of these OE programs, okay. One more. Does your facility sublet the scanning? In other words, you don't have the tools, you send it out to your mechanic or the dealer. Yeah, 60% of it gets sent out of some of them, not all of them. You guys like seeing? I think that seeing the data live is kind of neat. Yeah, it's really neat. How has your facility invested in an aftermarket scan tool? Yes or no? Wow, 72%. Yes. How many insurers are willing to pay? I couldn't answer that. I don't know. Oh, no, we don't have it. It's not programmed into the system. Yeah. We'll get there. That's what this is all about. that's what we're going to do.